Welcome to the MasterMind Library. They call me Ferdinand, the bringer of balance, leader of many disciplines, and one of your hosts of the MasterMind Library, the home of the MasterMind Book Club on FHTII.com. My co-host, he's a little tired right now. He's about to be snoozing. So I think the eyes are closed. So he'll be laying down for a little while. So thank y'all for tuning in to the MasterMind Library podcast, where we read books from the MasterMind Library, which is in the description of the video if you're interested in pulling some books from out of there. We got about 1,000 books in there, many great resources within that library. So today we are in episode 165, and we will be touching on chapter 8 in the Ageless Woman, your bones, right? So how to keep your bones healthy after 40, natural health and beauty after 40. Let's go ahead and move to where we need to be at in the book. All right, chapter 8 is on page 147. Let's go with 150. Let's see what that brings us. All right, we're close. We're real close. Boom, there we go. All right, chapter 8, your bones, strong without drugs or HT. Let's make sure everybody can see that on the All right, just 1 second, y'all. All right, so we got chapter 8 up here. Let's go ahead and get started. Your bones, strong without drugs or HT. Aggravated vata affecting the bones and bone marrow leads to porous bones. Indeed, the health of our bones should be a concern. Women of Asian and Caucasian heritage have nearly a 50% chance of breaking a bone due to low bone density after age 50, and major fractures can seriously alter your life. Yet, while the concern about osteoporosis is justified, both the popular notion that osteoporosis is a disease caused by lack of estrogen after menopause and the usual treatments for low bone density have been recently called into question. All right. Estrogen and your bones. Prior to July 2002, when the Women's Health Initiative discovered that HT's risks outweigh its benefits, women often inquired about taking HT to prevent osteoporosis. Usually their concern was voiced in an all too frequently asked question: without taking estrogen, won't I get osteoporosis? Their concern reflected the still common misconception that osteoporosis is caused by declining or insufficient levels of estrogen after menopause. What follows, of course, is the assumption that estrogen therapy may be the key to prevention and treatment. While such conclusions played handily into drug companies' marketing plans, it is just not that simple. Osteoporosis is not the inevitable result of declining estrogen levels, and declining estrogen is not the cause of osteoporosis. In actuality, scientists estimate that only about 15% of the bone mass we lose after age 30 is due to estrogen-related factors. An equal amount, roughly another 15%, is lost due to other factors. such as poor diet and lack of exercise, while lack of estrogen contributes to the development of osteoporosis in vulnerable women. It must share the stage equally with diet, exercise, and other factors. Aging not solely responsible. What role does aging play? Figures are often cited stating that women begin to lose 1% of their bone mass each year starting around age 30, accelerating to 2% loss per year for the 5 years around menopause. This rate slows again until a similar surge in loss occurs again after age 65 or 70. These statistics have led many women and their doctors to conclude that bone loss and deterioration of the female frame is an inevitable part of the aging process. But is it? More careful, longitudinal studies have since shown that such an inevitable decline is not normal for every woman. In fact, rates of loss vary considerably from woman to woman. Some lose very little bone over time and others lose a lot. Only about one-third of women were found to experience a rapid rate of loss around the time of menopause. An interesting study on the bones of women of 19th century England found no bone loss at all before menopause and a rate of loss after menopause that was much slower than that documented in women today. The authors attributed the healthier bones of the 19th century women to a more wholesome diet and a more physically active lifestyle. These studies substantiate the view that rapid bone loss is not inevitable with menopause, but varies with lifestyle habits and probably with genetics. And although losses of 1% or more per year after age 30 may be considered normal for our population today, they do not represent healthy aging. They reflect something that is wrong with our aging process. Getting older does not have to mean getting weaker in our bones or otherwise. Osteoporosis is preventable. While most medical doctors and menopausal women have yet to get the message, leading experts in the field are now proclaiming that osteoporosis is not inevitable, is not a normal consequence of aging, and is preventable in almost everyone if its root causes are addressed and bone weakening habits eliminated. A recent National Institutes of Health consensus panel on osteoporosis prevention, diagnosis, and therapy declared, once thought once thought to be a natural part of aging among women, osteoporosis is no longer considered age or sex dependent. It is largely preventable. The report goes on to state that prevention of osteoporosis depends on optimizing our bone health from birth onward, and that this process must occur throughout our lives as an essential aspect of our lifestyle. Peak bone mass is an important factor. The NIH panel report also emphasized that the amount of bone lost as we grow older is not the only factor that leads to osteoporosis. The amount of bone we start out with in early adulthood, our peak bone mass, is as important as later bone loss in the development of osteoporosis and largely determines whether later loss is significant enough to increase the risk of fractures. Simply put, if you have percent or more due to reduced estrogen, poor lifestyle habits, and aging over several decades probably won't weaken your bones enough to cause fractures. But if you start with low bone mass and a delicate skeleton, losing 30% could lead to vulnerable bones and a high risk of fractures in the future. Table 8.1 will alert you to the factors you can and cannot change to reduce your risk of osteoporosis. What exactly is osteoporosis? Osteoporosis is a condition of the bones characterized by decreased bone strength. When bone strength decreases, you are more likely to have an abnormal breakage or fractures. Your bone strength relies on two factors: bone density, the solidity of your bones, which depends on calcium, collagen, and other substances, and bone architecture, the underlying structure and design of your bones. Low bone density caused by decreased calcium content in the bone structure, is the factor best known to cause bone weakness. There is so much attention on on bone density, on bone density of bones today, that it is easy to think of osteoporosis as simply very low bone density. But the density of your bones, which accounts for about 70% of your bone strength, is only one of several factors that may weaken your bones and lead to fractures. It just depends, it just happens to be emphasized because it is currently the only factor that we can directly measure. Another important factor determining how strong your bones are is bone architecture. Bone architecture, just like house architecture, refers to how well designed and well built your bones are, and is a bone attribute that also tends to deteriorate with age. When looked at under a microscope, your bones appear like the steel skeleton of a skyscraper under construction. If the construction quality of the many supporting girders is poor, the bone will be brittle, even though there is plenty of calcium present to cause good density. Imagine the skyscraper is built of the densest, hardest steel, but the girders are poorly aligned to handle the weight of so many stories. The floors may collapse, even though the raw material itself is strong. Table 8.2 summarizes the myths and facts about the modern medical understanding and approach to osteoporosis. Age and your bone strength. Our risk of bone fracture tends to increase as we get older because bone density, bone architecture, and bone strength all tend to decline over time. But as you may recall, lack of estrogen and aging are not enough to cause osteoporosis in most women. It takes lack of calcium, inadequate exercise, and other preventable factors over a lifetime to make bones vulnerable to breaking. Nature did not intend for us to fall apart as we age. And despite your doctor's concerns over low bone density results, such reports don't necessarily mean you have brittle bones. Sorry. Your bone strength depends partially on your age. Even if a woman has low bone density at age 50, she is much less likely to break your hip than a woman with the same bone density who is in her 70s or 80s. This is generally attributed to better quality of bone architecture in younger women. Younger bones are better able to withstand the stress of a fall or sudden impact without breaking. What this means is that you can be diagnosed as having osteoporosis simply from a low reading on a bone density test, when in actuality, your bones may still be quite strong. Recent research has uncovered further good news regarding bone strength and the body's incredible ability to compensate for hormonal and other shifts as we age. As estrogen levels drops, the bones may lose density, but they also tend to gain actual thickness as measured by the diameter of the bone. This means that if your bones were shaped like a hollow pin, the outside of the pin is getting bigger around, as if more plastic is being added to the outer surface. This adaptation helps to strengthen the bone and compensate for loss of bone density on the inner surfaces of the bone as we age. Finally, regardless of our age, our bone cells remain extremely sensitive to increases in weight bearing, i.e., exercise, and respond by laying down more and stronger bone. The result of more exercise is stronger bones, whether we are 8 or 80. The most important action you can take if you are diagnosed with low bone density or osteoporosis is to stay alive. Is to stay active. Curtailing your exercise and activities out of fear of breaking a bone will only make you more likely to fracture over time. Get moving, keep moving, and enjoy the feeling of agility, self-sufficiency, and energy that you gain as you build your bone and muscle strength through a regular exercise program. Treating this condition can be fun and empowering. Bone changes at menopause. At menopause, your bone's architecture undergoes changes that directly affect the strength of your bones. Two processes of bone growth are involved: bone remodeling and bone turnover rate. Your bones are not static, they are constantly undergoing a process of remodeling or rebuilding. Just as a jet plane must be inspected regularly for tiny cracks in its steel structure, your bones are continually monitored for weak areas and then repaired by this remodeling process. To accomplish this, osteoclasts, or bone eating cells, continually chew holes in your bones to get rid of weaker, older bone, and osteoblasts, or bone making cells, fill in these holes with new, stronger bone. The speed at which remodeling of your bone occurs is your bone turnover rate, and it depends on the coordination between removing old bone and making new bone. If bone is chewed up faster than the resulting gaps can be filled, your bones may develop thin, weak spots where breaks can easily occur. And this is exactly what tends to occur in some women at menopause. Tiny cracks and empty potholes accumulate faster than they can be filled, making the bone weaker and more prone to fracture. Modern medicine doesn't know why this increased rate of bone breakdown occurs at midlife, but it does have treatments that have been shown to slow the process. In women with osteoporosis, these treatments have been shown to reduce fractures, at least in the first few years of taking them. However, for women with osteopenia, a milder degree of bone loss than osteoporosis, the category in which most midlife women with low bone density fall, none of these treatments have been proven to prevent fractures or to be without side effects. Let's look at the benefits and pitfalls of some of the treatments for osteoporosis available today, both medical and non-medical. Then I will show you how Maharishi Ayurveda can be used to improve your bone health and prevent osteoporosis without drugs and without hormones in a truly natural approach. Hormonal and drug treatment for osteoporosis. Let's review the most common drug and hormonal approaches for preventing osteoporosis used by women today, which include hormone therapy, HT, bisphosphonate therapy, such as Fosamax and Actinol, and natural progesterone, creams and pills. Hormone therapy, HT. It is well established that HT improves bone density 6% within the first few years of use in the hip and spine, and results from the Women's Health Initiative, the first large-scale trial to test HT's effect on fractures. The, the bottom line issue is osteoporosis treatment confirmed that fracture risk of the hip and spine was reduced by about 33% compared to women on placebo. However, the HT regimen used in the Women's Health Initiative resulted in so many excess heart attacks, strokes, blood clots, and breast cancers that use of HT solely for the prevention of osteoporosis is no longer recommended. Researchers are now testing the effects of ultra-low HT regimens on bone density using bioidentical estrogen at 1/4 the usual dose in an effort to reduce negative side effects. This regimen resulted in increases in bone density over 3 years with no evidence of the side effects usually associated with HT. However, longer-term follow-up is needed to assess whether this increase in bone density results in actual reduction of fractures and to be sure that increased breast cancer risk and other negative effects do not occur with long-term use. Ultra-low dose estrogen may someday prove effective at reducing fractures, especially in women with very low endogenous, naturally present estrogen levels after menopause who are at increased risk of fractures. For now, however, it is probably wise to avoid taking HT simply for the prevention of osteoporosis. Biphosphonate therapy. Fosamax, and Actinol. Women who don't want the risks of HT but are at risk for osteoporosis are often encouraged to take Fosamax, a drug belonging to the class called bisphosphonates. These drugs dramatically reduce the rate of bone turnover, your bone's repair cycle, and within the first year of use can reduce the risk of fractures by as much as 65%. At first glance, such statistics make these drugs seem too good to pass up for a woman with low bone density concerned about fractures. Yet, their long-term safety and efficacy has been brought into question by some experts. The results of one of the most important studies on osteoporosis treatment to date, the Fracture Intervention Trial, FIT, at the University of California, San Francisco, showed that in the first year of biphosphonate treatment, bone density increased by about 6% and fractures were reduced a dramatic 50 to 60%. Extra bone density plus reduced fractures sounds either too good to be passed up or too good to be true. But in medicine, as in life, there is no free lunch. If we manipulate the body powerfully without the guidance of the body's own inner intelligence, there is likely to be some fallout somewhere. Remember the process of bone remodeling, the process in which your bones are in a constant state of breaking down and building up. Biphosphonates work by slowing down the speed of your bone's chewing cells, osteoclasts, so that the repair crews, osteoblasts, can catch up and fill in bone, shoring up critical weak points in the bones where fractures are more likely to occur. But in later years, slowed bone turnover rates may mean that tiny stress fractures are not removed and replaced in a timely manner, resulting eventually in weaker bones that are more prone to fracture. It is altogether possible that women who take these drugs for 10 years or more may end up with weaker bones than they started with. Indeed, research is showing that the benefit of these drugs at reducing fracture is less with each successive year of use. A follow-up study to FIT found that after 7 years, bone density was greater in women on Fosamax, but fracture risk was the same as those who were not taking it, supporting the concern that the benefit of these drugs may be short-lived. Currently, Fosamax is being recommended if you have already had a fracture due to osteoporosis, test in the severely osteoporotic range, or are over age 70 and at high risk of fracture. The assumption is that you might benefit from the quick, short-term reduction in your risk of breaking a bone. However, if you are younger, you may be trading off early protection that you don't really need for further problems down the line. A thorough discussion with your doctor is in order if you are advised to take one of these drugs. Natural progesterone. In the widely read book, What Your Mother May Not Tell You About Menopause, the breakthrough book on natural progesterone, Dr. John Lee popularized the notion that natural progesterone cream, more accurately called bioidentical progesterone, is a dramatically effective way to increase your bone's density. His research involved observations and data on about 65 women in his practice who took bioidentical progesterone cream for 3 years. All of them were reportedly following his recommendations for exercise, diet, and vitamin and mineral supplementation, and 40% of them were also taking estrogen. He reported as much as a 23% increase in bone density in the lumbar spine over a 3-year period in those patients. However, there are several problems with this study. Besides the fact that there is no control group, the use of estrogen along with progesterone in almost half the subjects, as well as the effects of exercise and vitamin mineral supplements on all the subjects, confound the picture. A follow-up study by other researchers, a randomized controlled trial with 102 postmenopausal women, compared the effects of bioidentical progesterone cream with a placebo on bone density at the spine and hip. After 1 year, there was no difference in bone density between the women taking progesterone and those on the placebo. Another larger trial, the postmenopausal estrogen progesterone intervention trial, PEPI, also failed to show that bioidentical progesterone, when taken orally, increases bone density beyond that of estrogen alone. Add to this the recently discovered breast cancer increasing effects of progestins, and it is clear that taking any kind of progesterone, whether synthetic or natural, to increase bone density is not advisable based on the best evidence available today. Osteoporosis, myth versus fact. Below is summary of the myths and facts about the modern medical understanding and approach to osteoporosis. Natural approaches to bone health. None of the modern medical approaches available, notably HT and Fosamax, are FDA approved or recommended if a woman is premenopausal or perimenopausal and in her 30s or 40s. Appropriately so, given that they have not been proven helpful. Yet, many women in that age range are being tested and told they have osteopenia, bone density that is lower than normal, but not yet osteoporosis. In fact, a recent study found that approximately 28 to 45% of midlife women currently have osteopenia, depending on what measuring device is used for diagnosis. This includes many women in their 50s who are increasingly being prescribed drugs to increase their bone density. A Merck study estimates that about 1/3 of women diagnosed with osteopenia are currently taking a drug for it. Yet, due to lack of convincing data and the potential for long-term side effects, the best experts in the field are recommending against drugs or HT for their midlife women. Given the age limitations recognized by the FDA and researchers' doubt about long-term use of these drugs, what should you do if you are one of these women with osteopenia? First of all, don't panic. Keep in mind that your condition of low bone density can, in many cases, be improved as effectively through changing your diet and exercise habits as by taking drug or hormone therapy. You are not at immediate risk of fracture, and you have plenty of time to accrue the benefits of new bone health habits for stronger, healthy bones later in life if you get started now. Besides, just because your doctor gives you a drug or hormone tablet does not mean you are suddenly immune to getting a fracture later in life. Estrogen therapy does not prevent 2/3 of fractures, and Fosamax may not prevent any in later life. Rushing off to your doctor for a pill to cure your low bone density or osteopenia, as diagnosed by a test in midlife, is not just justified by the research thus far, and is discouraged by the best experts in the field. Experts such as Dr. Bruce Ettinger, senior researcher at the Kaiser Permanente Medical Program in Northern California, are advising women in their 40s and 50s with osteopenia to stick to natural, non-drug, and non-hormonal interventions, he has stated. Drugs for osteoporosis should be reserved for those at highest risk and should not be used for healthy women in their 50s who have osteopenia. Alendronate, the generic term for the leading drug in this class, Fosamax, is accumulating in bone and staying there, possible forever. Will this eventually be a good or a bad thing? We don't know. Recent 5 to 7 year data on alendronate give us reason to be concerned. Stay with non-drug interventions for younger women at risk. Regardless of your age, natural therapies like soy products in your diet, enough calcium and vitamin D, and regular exercise offer a preventive treatment approach for improving your bone density years before osteoporosis fractures are likely to occur. An added plus is that these approaches can be continued indefinitely without side effects. Soy products. There is some scientific evidence that soy protein and soy isoflavonous, the phytoestrogenic ingredient in soy products, as well as whole soy food, may increase bone density in the spine. So far, research has not demonstrated any increase in bone density in the hip, and more research is needed to assess soy's effect on fractures. However, concentrated isoflavone pills, in addition to being less effective than whole soy, are quite estrogenic and may turn out to have side effects similar to estrogen itself. Whole soy protein and foods such as tofu, soy milk, and tempeh may be safer. They tend to be rich in calcium and exert a gentler estrogen like effect on bone. Stay tuned for more research and more dependable findings on soy for your bones in the coming years. Calcium supplementation. An adequate supply of calcium is essential for healthy bones and should be a gained from your food rather than supplements if possible. If you already have enough calcium in your diet, taking calcium supplements will not improve your bone density. An adequate supply of calcium in your body requires a balance between what you consume and what you excrete. A diet high in protein, especially animal protein, can cause you to excrete more calcium through your kidneys. A recent study by Dr. Selmayr and colleagues at University of California, San Francisco, found that women over the age of 65 with diets high in vegetable protein and low in animal protein, as in a vegetarian diet, lost bone at a slower rate and had a lower risk of hip fractures than those consuming higher amounts of animal protein. Caffeine in coffee and black tea, phosphorus in commercial soft drinks, and sodium, either from table salt or hidden in prepared and packaged foods, all leach calcium and threaten bone density. Reducing your intake of these bone-leaching foods and drinks and eating a more vegetarian diet are positive steps you can take to protect your bones naturally. How much calcium is enough? The recommended daily allowance for calcium intake in postmenopausal women is currently 1,500 milligrams per day. This means the total calcium present in your food plus any supplements you may take. Women often think that this means they need to take 1,500 milligrams of calcium supplement in addition to diet. That is not the case. In fact, it could be dangerous. If you are digesting and assimilating well, you may not even need 1,500 milligrams of calcium per day after menopause to prevent bone loss. Studies have shown that rural Chinese women and native Argentinians, in whom osteoporosis is rare, typically consume as little as 400 milligrams of calcium per day, mostly from vegetable sources. Their active lifestyle and the good metabolism that follows from that, and possibly the soy in the Chinese diet, all contribute to their healthy bones. The danger of overdosing on calcium supplements was brought home to me by the experience of one of my patients who followed the advice of her doctor to take 1,500 milligrams of calcium citrate supplement each day. Within 3 months, she noticed a strange metallic taste in her mouth and started feeling tired and nauseated. She returned to her internist for evaluation. A blood test revealed a serum calcium level above 15. Normal is less than 11. She was in serious danger of cardiac arrhythmia, and her kidneys had begun to fail, which was the cause of her symptoms. Fortunately, a treatment of aggressive hydration to flush out the calcium quickly returned her serum calcium and kidney function to normal. Of course, she stopped taking supplements, and no serious ill effects persisted. This was an unusual incident, to be sure. However, it was a valuable lesson that calcium supplements in excess can be too much of a good thing. This incident further points out that overloading your body with large doses of single nutrients, the magic bullet effect again, is not natural. It is always better to get what you need from your food. If you are not getting enough calcium from your diet, Supplement the difference according to your need and be cautious not to go beyond it. Refer to the sidebar to help calculate your daily intake and guide you in including more calcium rich foods in your diet. Vitamin D, the sunshine vitamin. Another important ingredient for normal bone metabolism is vitamin D. You can get your daily dose from your diet or from supplements, or you can expose sunscreen free area. You can expose a sunscreen free area of your skin, equivalent to the face and arms, to sunlight for about 20 minutes per day, year round. Because vitamin D is fat soluble, your body can store enough of it to last several months at a time. So lots of sun on the body in the warmer months may be adequate enough to get you through the winter. If you don't want to expose your skin without a sunscreen for protection, you need to know that sunscreen reduces vitamin D synthesis in the skin. A reasonable solution is to take a supplement of 400 to 800 international units of vitamin D per day. Also, walking outdoors before 9 or 10 a.m. when the sun is less direct works well for many women. Exercise. Starting an exercise program, especially if you have been previously inactive, can increase your bone density by as much as 6% in a year, a rate that is similar to that seen in women taking HT or biphosphonate therapy, Fosamax. And it's never too late to start. One study found that women in their 80s could increase their bone density in their hips simply by holding on to a chair and stomping their feet for several minutes each day. However, as with HT, bone density starts to go down again if you stop exercising. That's good motivation to start exercising and stick with your program. It's the most effective method of improving your bone density naturally. Like most natural approaches, exercise gives benefits in more ways than one. Exercise reduces the risk of falls, another major cause of fractures, by 25%, according to randomized clinical trials reported by the recent NIH panel on osteoporosis prevention, diagnosis, and therapy. As we get older, we have a tendency to fall more easily due to problems with balance, vision, reaction time, and reduced muscle power. However, most of this deterioration is not due to inevitable effects of aging, but due to lack of practice as we get more sedentary in later life. Regular exercise and balance training through Tai Chi, yoga, sports, Pilates, and other coordination enhancing exercises can help keep reactions youthful and should be included in every lifelong exercise program. Combining exercise with adequate calcium and vitamin D intake can reduce your risk of fractures by over 30%, about the same amount seen in osteoporosis patients treated with Fosamax for 3 years. A little known fact the drug companies do not care to publicize. Given these very real benefits of exercise, you'd be wise to start your exercise program today if you haven't already, no matter what your age. Studies have found that in general, the stronger your muscles are, the stronger your bones are. Any activity that builds your muscle strength will help to build your bone strength at the same time. Although exercises that use your largest muscles against gravity, weight bearing, are most effective. Good news for swimmers. Recent studies have found that swimming can increase bone density in your back, contrary to prior belief that it was not weight bearing and therefore not effective at building bone. Another example of how strengthening adjacent muscles can strengthen your bones. What is the ideal exercise regimen for your bones? One study found that women could increase their bone density by 6% in only 6 months with a regimen of aerobics for 1.5 hours and weights for 1.5 hours 3 times a week. If this sounds too rigorous for you, schedule some regular walking, jogging, dancing, bicycling, or aerobics. Even 20 to 30 minutes a day will do it. Just get started with something, and the well-being you begin to feel will keep you coming back for more. Healthy bones through MAV. In MAV, osteoporosis is known literally as porous bones and is believed to result from physiological imbalances, not from aging. Osteoporosis is described as a disorder of Vata dosha, which most commonly occurs in the Vata time of life, or the later third. This is the time after menopause when degenerative Vata related disorders are most common. The medical establishment commonly cites figures indicating women lose 1% of their bone mass each year after age 30 and 2% or more each year during menopause and into postmenopause. So during, excuse me, and 2% or more each year during perimenopause and into postmenopause. But as we have seen, as many as 2/3 of women do not fit this profile. Indeed, I have seen this midlife bone loss completely obliterated and women gain bone at this time of life simply by applying MAV therapies to balance Vata and supporting bone health naturally from the inside out. What it takes is proper attention to diet and exercise, as well as some specific Vata balancing approaches to enhance calcium absorption and utilization by your bone tissue. The following story of Jennifer's treatment with MAV demonstrates the very real results possible for bone health through the non-drug, truly holistic approach. Jennifer's story: gaining bone in midlife naturally. Jennifer, an interior designer, came to see me at age 42 when she noticed that her periods had become irregular. A blood test revealed that Jennifer's FSH level was elevated, indicating the onset of menopause, a bit on the early side of the normal 45 to 55 age range. Within a year, Jennifer's periods had stopped altogether. I've had very few hot flashes, more like a few warm flushes, and only if I'm under stress or not getting enough rest, Jennifer reported. But I am concerned about my bones. My twin sister had a bone density test and it was low. She's starting on HT, but our mother died of breast cancer and I don't want to risk taking hormones. A bone density test of her hip and spine revealed a moderate degree of low bone density or osteopenia at the hip. Although the spine was normal, I explained to Jennifer that since her bones were still basically strong and fractures due to low bone density wouldn't be a concern for many years, it was completely safe to try some natural approaches to improving her bone density. I assured her we would monitor the result and change our treatment approach if what we were doing wasn't working. Jennifer decided to pursue a completely natural approach, focusing on balancing Vata dosha through diet and lifestyle, continuing her regular exercise, and getting adequate dietary calcium. I also advised Jennifer to undergo the purifying process of panchakarma or Maharishi Rejuvenation Therapy, MRT, once a year for the profound balancing effect it has on Vata dosha, as well as its ability to rid Amu from the body. Classical texts of Ayurvedic medicine recommend panchakarma as the best treatment for osteoporosis. Finally, I recommend a traditional herbal supplement from MAV that contains organic sources of calcium derived from pearls and conch shell, plus herbs to help their absorption. See the resources for information on where to obtain this and other products. 4 years later, Jennifer had another bone density test. Instead of losing 8% or more, as is commonly predicted for the average woman during the first 4 years after menopause, Jennifer had gained 4.5%. Not only did Jennifer's gain in bone density bode well for the future health of her bones, but her achievement confirms that bone loss is not inevitable at menopause. Loss of bone is due to an imbalance that can be corrected. not an inevitable result of menopause per se or of aging. Several other women in my practice over the past 10 years have had comparable or even greater improvements in their bone density without hormones or drugs. These women, either perimenopausal or early postmenopausal, and ranging in age from 42 to 55, have experienced similar gains in their bone density at a time when they technically are expected to be undergoing accelerated rates of bone loss. Most of these women followed a combined approach of improved diet and calcium intake, increased exercise, daily oil massage, and MAV supplements for better assimilation and utilization of dietary calcium. One 54-year young patient, Maria, achieved a gain of 15% in her hip bone density after only 1 year of MAV herbal calcium alone without even increasing her exercise. While I wouldn't expect every woman to have this dramatic a result, and certainly recommend exercising for increasing bone density as well as so many other reasons, it was an impressive indication of the potential power of the MAV calcium supplements to support bone health. Balance Vata to build bone. Balancing Vata dosha is critically important to improving your bone density and treating osteoporosis. Anything that disturbs Vata dosha, whether from diet or lifestyle choices, can reduce assimilation and affect your bones and other tissues. Such factors as irregular meals, late nights, mental stress, inadequate nutrition, overwork, and lack of exercise can all throw your Vata dosha out of balance and thus contribute to weakened bones. You may recall how Vata dosha governs all movement and flow in the body. This includes assimilation of nutrients, such as the flow of calcium across the intestinal lining and delivery of nutrients directly to the bones through your circulatory system. As the governing intelligence of all bodily activity, Vata is also responsible for keeping the rate of your bone turnover balanced. I have prescribed how your bones are in a constant state of renewal and repair through the process of remodeling. For most of your lifespan, the remodeling proceeds at a steady pace in healthy bones. Around the time of menopause, however, the pace of remodeling and thus bone turnover tends to speed up, a decidedly Vata-like turn of events, since Vata is associated with quickness and dominates at the time of menopause. However, excess Vata also tends to create kashaya, or wasting effect on your tissues. In other words, excess Vata tends to make you lose mass from your tissues, including your muscles and bones. This is exactly what can happen at menopause, when old bone is eliminated faster than new bone is formed. Translated into modern medical terms, this means your osteoclasts begin to chew up your bone up faster than your osteoblasts can fill in the gaps, resulting in a net loss of bone density. MAV provides a way to treat the root of this speed up by restoring overall balance to the body, rather than by slowing down the process with a drug like Fosamax. How to balance Vata. Here are some specific recommendations you can incorporate into your life to ensure a more balanced Vata dosha for bone health. Also see Chapter 4 for more information on balancing Vata dosha. Give yourself abhyanga, self-massage with oil every day. Oil is the most Vata pacifying physical substance there is. Applying oil to your body daily is a powerful way to balance Vata, calm your nerves, increase assimilation, and ultimately strengthen your bones. Choose your massage oil according to the guidelines given in Chapter 4. For added effect on your bone tissue, add 8 drops of pure essential oil, a peppermint, to 1/8 cup of your oil for application on your legs, hips, and spine area. Eat your meals on time and do not skip any meals, especially lunch. Go to bed early, preferably by 10 a.m. Walk for 20 to 30 minutes each day in the early morning sun. Take measures to reduce mental stress and worry. Strengthen your digestive fire to build strong bones. MAV states that good digestion and metabolism are both fundamental to bone health and gives you practical ways to maximize these critical functions of your body. We have seen how the imbalance of a dosha cannot by itself cause disease when it is the tissues of your body themselves become disrupted that disease develops. This happens through a weakening of your agni, or the digestive fire that breaks down your food before it can be delivered to your cells and tissues for their nourishment. Weak digestion can cause lack of assimilation of calcium and other bone nutrients, as well as amu buildup that further blocks the delivery of nourishment to your tissues, leaving them starved, weak, and vulnerable to disease. At menopause, buildup of waste and impurities can disrupt the remodeling that is necessary for your bones to remain strong. The influence of vata at this time throws off the coordination of bone chewing and bone repair. According to MAV theory, this amu buildup creates more trouble by choking off the maze of tiny channels called canaliculi that carry nutrients into the bone and waste out. Estrogen, calcitonin, parathyroid, and other important bone hormones course through the bone along canaliculi, guiding and adjusting the process of remodeling in a way that keeps your bone metabolism balanced. When they are blocked, your bones can become weak and porous, making them increasingly vulnerable to osteoporotic fractures. How to banish bone-breaking waste. Keeping your digestion and assimilation strong and your bones amu-free are important factors in bone health. Follow these recommendations to improve your digestive fire for good bone building metabolism. Drink your herbalized water daily for 3 to 6 months. Refer to Chapter 6 for your personalized recipe, and be sure to add the herbs and spices listed specifically for your bone tissue, as well as for meda, your fat tissue, which cooks for your bones. Your herbal water helps clear waste from your tissues, and its various herbs and spices give phytoestrogen support. Eat regular meals of wholesome, fresh ingredients. Eat your main meal at noon, and have any non-vegetarian foods which are harder to digest at lunchtime only. Eat a lighter meal in the evening, preferably vegetarian, without cheese, yogurt, or other cold curdled products, which can cause channel blocking amu when eaten late in the day. Eat plenty of green, leafy vegetables, cooked until tender for better assimilation. Include sesame seeds in your daily diet. They are high in calcium and especially nourishing to the bones. According to MAV, try adding them to stir-fry vegetables or your morning cooked cereal. Grinding them in a spice grinder will aid assimilation. Or eat tahini, ground sesame butter with a little jam or jelly. Or try hummus made with tahini and chickpeas, both of which are good sources of calcium. Eat 8 to 10 blanched almonds several times per week. Soak in water overnight and remove the skins before eating for greater digestibility and for pata balancing effects. Almonds are high in calcium and especially nourishing to bones. Include dairy in your diet, but do not drink milk with a full meal or with fresh fruits or anything salty. Milk is best as a snack with grains, unsalted nuts, or dried sweet fruits such as dates or raisins. Boiling it with a pinch of cardamom and ginger and drinking it at bedtime is a good habit for most women if your evening meal was light. Boiling your milk enhances digestibility and reduces its kufu, or mucus increasing effect. Include some power grains, see chapter 6, in your diet each day. They are rich in minerals and provide phytoestrogen support. Exercise daily for at least 30 minutes at about 50% of your capacity. Include light weights or other resistance exercise to build muscle and bone strength, as well as brisk walking or other aerobic activity to improve circulation, digestion, and metabolism. If you are not getting enough calcium in your diet, you may supplement with over-the-counter calcium. However, MAV holds that nutrients in your food are assimilated better and less likely to imbalance your system in any way. You may also wish to take the MAV herbal calcium supplement that I mentioned earlier. See the resources for product information. To enhance absorption, use your digestive spice mixture from chapter 6 in cooking and when eating out. This will help you digest and assimilate the calcium in your diet. Your elimination and your bones. Another factor involved in bone health, according to MAV, is the health of your colon. That part of your large intestines that extends to the rectum. Vata dosha is said to have its main seat or home in the colon, underscoring again the pivotal role of Vata in bone health. The colon is lined with a thin mucous membrane, Parisha Dara Kala, which absorbs water and electrolytes back into your body before elimination. This membrane is described in the Vedic medical texts as intimately associated with the membrane surrounding the bones, Ashti Dara Kala, or periosteum in Latin, and is key to both healthy bones and a healthy colon. Any disorders of the colon, such as chronic constipation or chronic So any treatment program for osteoporosis should consider them. See my recommendations for correcting these elimination disorders at the end of chapter 6. Maharishi Rejuvenation Therapy, Panchakarma, the ultimate bone building treatment. Diseases due to the vitiation of bone tissue should be treated by Panchakarma. 5 elimination therapies, the Charaka Samhita. You recall that Vata dosha is key to bone health, that oil massage balances Vata, that toxic Amu buildup can weaken the bones, and that the colon is the home of Vata in the physiology. So it is no wonder that MRT, which uses oils, a mild herbal enema, and heat application to balance Vata and eliminate Amu, is the ultimate, most intensely balancing treatment for osteoporosis in MAV. As in Jennifer's case, I have observed that MRT can be very helpful in restoring strength to the bone tissue and normalizing bone metabolism. While it takes months or even years to reverse low bone density, imbalance in Vata dosha, and the accumulated layers of Amu in the tissues that are causing further loss can be greatly reduced in just a week of treatment. And while medically effective, MRT is also one very nurturing, deeply rejuvenating, and relaxing week of pampering and luxury. As well, it should be. For to balance Vata dosha, your mind, emotions, and nervous system must also be deeply soothed. Unfortunately, not everyone has the time or resources to take advantage of MRT. However, everyone can make the time to do a mini MRT at home every day by giving herself an Abhyanga oil massage and following the 3-step foundation program described in chapter 6, along with the dietary points in chapter 4 for optimizing your diet and assimilation and eliminating Amu will allow you to gain some of the cleansing benefits of MRT on your own. Healthy bones are within your reach. I hope these approaches from MAV, along with other natural approaches like exercise and increased calcium intake from food, will give you tools that quell your apprehension about osteoporosis at a time when low bone density is being diagnosed for so many midlife women. You are not helpless, and you do have options other than drugs and hormones, regardless of what your healthcare practitioner may be telling you. Put some or all of these bone saving therapies into effect right now and enjoy living the rest of your life with strong, healthy bones to carry you forth. And that concludes chapter 8. On our next episode, we'll be going into chapter 9, your mind, out of the fog. So getting out of that brain fog and coming into something much, much better, into the light. All right. Powerful material in here. And I want to be clear for all the people who are listening. This is for the ladies, obviously, but clearly a bunch of the material in here can apply to men. So I highly recommend the men are listening. Like the information that was given today on strong bones, like this is valuable information for anybody to understand. I would say for all parents to understand, for every adult to understand. Even you want your children to understand this, because if they understand what was given in this chapter today, you give those children, you give that group of people, that family, the opportunity to never have any problems with their bones their whole life. Well, why? Because they have an intimate connection between their proper mineral intake and the family's disability through discipline, right? We need to walk that path of discipline to make that happen. All right. So listen, y'all be blessed and expose your gift.